Hello children. In our lesson today, we are going to make the first steps on a journey to learn about a different way of dividing. Now yesterday we learnt all about division by sharing, and that's where we do this. Do you remember? Let's look at this example here. We had 6 treats shared between 2 cats. How many did they get each? So I could write that as a division sentence, remember? 6 divided by 2 equals, and I'm going to see how many each cat gets. So let's use that one for you method. And can you see? Oh, I've used all of my treats. I know they're not treats, I know they're cereal, but the cats have eaten all the treats. And they've got 3 each. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. So when I'm sharing, I know how many I've got in my whole. I know how many objects I'm sharing, what number I'm sharing. I know how many groups I'm putting into, and then I'm counting how many each is in each group, or how many each person, or in this case, cat, gets. So that was our method from yesterday. So today we are going to take the first steps, as I've said, into looking at a new way of dividing, and it's a method called grouping, and it's actually much easier than sharing. However, before we can look at how we divide by grouping, we've got to make sure that we can make and describe equal groups. And we looked at this last half term, but we're going to recap it today. So let's remind ourselves of what we mean by equal groups. So I've got 20 pieces of cereal here. In your PDF file it talks about 20 buttons, and we wonder how many equal groups of 5 could I make out of these pieces of cereal. So let's see, it's going to put them into groups of 5. So there's 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups. They've all got 5 in, so that makes them equal groups because they're all the same. So I have made 4 equal groups of 5, and I could write this as a repeated addition. 5 add 5 add 5 add 5. So let's take this a little further. I've got 12 objects, in my case, my pieces of cereal, and I'm going to put them into groups of 3. Let's see how many equal groups I can make. So let's see, there's 1 group of 3, another group of 3, another group of 3, and another group of 3. So I have got 4 groups of 3. So I can make 4 equal groups of 3. I could write it as a repeated addition. I could write 3, add 3, add 3, add 3. I wonder how I could write it as a bar model. Pause the video for a moment and talk to your grown-up. If I wrote it as a bar model, children, I could do this. I could have my bar here. My whole is here, and I split it into 4 groups, so I've got 4 boxes here, and there are 3 in each group. So now I'm dividing my 12 objects into groups of 3. I can describe as 4 equal groups of 3. I can use a repeated addition, 3 add 3 add 3 add 3, or a bar model. I wonder how I might show this as an array. Do you remember we looked at arrays last half term when we were looking at multiplication? Pause the video for a moment and talk to your grown-up. If I was going to write this as an array, children, I could draw an array. Remember that an array is where we arrange our objects in rows and columns. I could have 4 rows of 3. So here's my first row of 3, and my next row of 3, and my next row of 3, and my next row of 3. So now I have split described my 12 objects split into groups of 3 as 4 equal groups of 3, a repeated addition, a bar model, and an array. I wonder how I could use stem sentences to write a written description Pause the video for a moment and talk to your grown-up. Well, children, if I'm going to use my STEM sentences, I need to explain how many I have altogether. So there are 12 altogether. I have to move those out of the way. Oops. 12 altogether. Okay. I have got 3 in each group. There are 3 in each group. And how many groups have I got? There are 4 groups. So there are 4 groups. So now I have described what I have done with my 12 objects that I've put into groups of 3 in lots of different ways. I've done a written description of the groups, I've used repeated addition, I've created a bar model, an array, and I've used STEM sentences to explain what I have done. And this is what I want you to do today in our activity. There are a series of statements asking you about how many equal groups there will be, and I want you to explain how many objects in each group in these different ways. So, for example, there are 20 and we need 5 in each group. How many groups? I want you to show how many equal groups. I want you to show it as repeated addition, as a bar model, an array, and as a description. There is a template for you to use on our PDF file, and I can't wait to see what you do, children. I know that you'll be fantastic at this because you were so good at this when we looked at multiplication. If you're finding it a little bit tricky, then you can record as a repeated addition and just describe the groups. There are a couple of challenge questions if you want to have a go at them as well. Don't forget to send lots of photos of your work to me, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.